Hi, I'm your host, Laura Nichols, and this is a note from your coach from me, Queen of the Pivot, to you, badass human. This show is designed as a quick dose of unfiltered motivation to empower you to create the life you want to be living, one of authenticity and alignment. It investigates the power of the pivot and helps create understanding of the human journey, all while sharing tales of pivots from my sometimes ridiculous human experience, as well as my 20 years of experience in working with other humans on growth and change. If you are interested in leveling up your life, stay tuned. A note from your coach starts now. Hello, my loves, and welcome back to Notes from Your Coach. We are on show number 11. And there's a lot going on in the world today. And so, interestingly enough, I actually had my coworkers choose today's topic. We kind of looked through the book and we picked out what we thought might be something that might be really important to talk about right now. And this is what we landed on. And I think it's such a good topic for where we are in the world today. For those of you who are listening, when this comes out, you don't necessarily need me to tell you, but we are on the tail end of the United States of, a new administration in office politically, and there's a lot going on, and there's a lot of feelings out there for a lot of people. And it's probably leading to a lot of sort of burnout and frustration. And so that's what's going on in the world here where I live, in the United States. But we always start with a quote from the book, from the Notes from Your Coach book. That's what the podcast is about. And this week, the quote that we're going with is to be fiercely intentional, right? Be fiercely intentional about what and who you give your attention to. And it's really important because let's be honest, our attention and our time and energy is really our most valuable currency. That's why people pay for things, to be honest. If they pay for services, because they're allowing other people to do things that would take their time and energy. So when we let distractions or toxic relationships or mindless habits drain us, right? It's really taking away a valuable piece of us. So in this unapologetically raw and motivating episode, we're going to break down how to take control back of your focus, your time, and your energy. So we're going to dive into the power of attention, where you place your attention, how it shapes your entire life, how to cut the noise out. Not everyone or everything deserves your time. We're going to talk about intentional relationships, who is fueling you and who's secretly draining you, and how do you delineate between the two. And we're going to talk about guarding your energy. There's another quote in this book that's similar to this, but really, if it's not a hell yes, it's a hard no, right? And getting used to being able to set those boundaries and really figure out for yourself what are the important things and people to give your time and energy to. So if you're like me, you're tired of being pulled in a million directions. You might be feeling burned out or stuck in cycles that don't serve you. This episode just might be your wake-up call. It's time to set some boundaries, protect your peace, and be fiercely intentional about where your energy goes. So let's get started. Thank you for joining me. This is Notes from Your Coach on Transformation Talk Radio, and you're going to stick with me for the next hour for us to talk about this important topic of energy and where your attention goes. The show comes out each first and third Monday at 12 p.m. Pacific and 3 p.m. Eastern time. And I'd love for you to join me. So let's dig in. It's kind of a punch in the gut to think about this, but most of us give our attention away similarly to when you're like walking through Costco and they're giving out a million free samples, right? Like, here, take this, take this. We don't really think about it. We don't really hesitate. We're just like, here you go. Take my energy, take my peace, take my focus. But attention really isn't free. It's really our most valuable currency. You get to choose where you want to spend it, where you want to invest it. And a lot of us aren't consciously making those choices. We're just spending our time and energy on things that are leaving us drained, anxious, stuck. So let's break this down. We've talked about this before, but the reality is the way our brain works, whatever we focus on is what grows in our life, period. That's not fluffy self-help talk. It's real life because our brain chooses what to give us focus on. And the more we focus on something, the more our brain shows us those things, right? We've talked about the reticular activating system before. We talked about it the last show, but the reality is what you focus on is what you're going to get more of in your life. So if our brain is like, let's say, a garden, your attention is like the water, right? Are you watering weeds or are you watering flowers, right? Weeds grow fast, right? Like think about how quickly negativity and confusion, how quickly that spreads, right? So quickly. And if you're not paying attention to where you're putting the time, all of a sudden you wake up a week later and there's a whole bunch of weeds that you have to pull and your yard looks like a jungle. I know for me, that's how it goes. If I'm not paying attention to the weeds and I'm not pulling them up on a regular basis in my little flower beds, all of a sudden my flower beds are overgrown. But the other piece of it is like the good things are more like flowers. They need intention, they need care, they need the right environment. Sometimes, usually once every year, I throw down a bunch of wild wildflower seeds. And the reality is, when I take the time to create the environment for them to grow, they grow much better, right? They need a certain kind of environment. They need a certain amount of water and they'll grow. Those weeds, they're just growing without much intention at all and they're sort of scattered. So if you're constantly focusing on the wrong things, the things that are draining you, that's what you're going to be seeing more of. You're just going to see more of it. And that's just brain science. It's how it works. If you're always giving your attention to drama, negativity, chaos, that's what's going to flourish. Do you ever have any of those friends who it just seems like there's always some sort of chaos going on? My guess is, with no judgment, that it's hard to get out of that cycle when you're starting to focus on the drama that begets drama, that begets drama, right? What if you intentionally pour your energy into growth and learning, things that bring you joy? That's what's going to expand. So it's probably time to get a little bit honest with yourself and ask what you're truly watering with your time. So let's talk a little bit about what an attention hijacker is, right? They're like the thieves in the night, or really, honestly, thieves in broad daylight, because they're not like sneaky. They're loud, right? Social media, this never-ending scroll of half-truths, humble brags, and things we really don't care about. Doom scrolling the news, that's a big one right now. Nothing says good mental health like an endless feed of the world's worst tragedies and terrible news. Or another hijacker are those mindless notifications, the beeping on the phone, the text that you're getting in, the notifications from social media, and all of a sudden you're 20 minutes down a rabbit hole. And that can be at work, that can be at home, that can be when you're trying to go to sleep at night. There's so many things sort of drawing our attention, like and stealing our energy. And they hijack our focus. And half the time, they honestly leave us feeling worse than we did before. So I'm not necessarily saying that we should delete all of our apps. There have been times where I've taken certain apps off of my phone to give myself a break from them. And that has proven to be typically really helpful. I'm not saying you have to live off the grid, right? Unless you're into that, hey, do it. Um, but it's really important to ask yourself who or what is controlling your attention right now. Is it you, or are you just reacting to whatever is the loudest? So let's talk about the difference between mindless and intentional consumption. We're always consuming something, right? So you binge watch a show for 5 hours, you finish it. Do you feel fulfilled, inspired, maybe numb? Or you spend that same amount of time, I don't know, reading a book or spending time on something that brings you joy, creating something, having deep conversation. Which one of those two things leaves you feeling better? One leaves you feeling better and one just leaves you feeling time. Don't get me wrong. Listen, I love watching TV and I love a good TV show. But the question is, are you consuming it with intention or are you doing it just to numb yourself? And there's no judgment here. But if you're noticing that you are consuming to numb yourself, that's kind of a red flag, right? There's something in your life that you're avoiding, and you got to think about that. If that hit a nerve, good. Sit with it a little bit, right? So I want you really to think about the last 24 hours, just the last 24 hours from whenever you're listening to this. Where does your attention go? How much of it was intentional? How much of it was just reacting to whatever showed up? I started a new job a couple weeks ago, and it's been chaotic. So I've been a school counselor for 15 years, but jumping back in mid-year to a high school has been interesting, right? And it's been super fast paced. And what I noticed the first week is I was just responding email, 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 email every time it was coming up, and it was it left me feeling like really scattered. And so my colleague gave me a really great tip. He said, one thing that I have learned is when you are constantly letting your email like take your attention, you're giving your attention away to that person, and you're not intentional about your own attention. And that really hit me. So today I actually turned off my notifications to my email, time blocked some time where I really needed to focus on looking at something that took a little bit of brain power. And it felt so good to finally be able to check something off my list because I wasn't letting that constant dinging of my email get to me. And so that was what worked for me today. So I want you to think about where you spent the last 24 hours. Your attention, was it intentional? And how much of it was reacting to whatever showed up versus creating or being intentional. So your life is made up of all these little choices every day. If you keep spending your attention on things that don't serve you, you can't really be shocked when your life doesn't feel the way you want it to, right? I'm going to wrap up with a little bit of tough love in this section. Your attention isn't just being stolen, right? It's being mugged in broad daylight. And most of us are literally just handing over our wallets like it's normal. It's not normal. It's not okay. You have every right to take your focus back. So I want you to challenge yourself from this moment forward for the next 24 hours. Be intentional. Catch yourself when you're about to give your attention to something pointless, right? Pause and ask yourself, is this worth my energy? And if it's not, walk away, right? Because the more intentional you are with your intention, the more intentional you become with your life. These small, tiny acts are what create our bigger life. They're tiny Lego pieces that create this big, beautiful thing in the end. That's as much as I got for this segment. We're going to keep going in the next one, and we're going to talk about what it looks like to cut the noise and reclaim our focus. So I'll be right back. All right, my loves, welcome back to Notes from Your Coach. We're going to talk about cutting the noise, right? Trust me, this might be the most important thing you hear all week. How do we cut the noise, right? Sometimes that can be really difficult, especially when we feel like the thing that's taking our attention is really important, but we're noticing, like right now, everything seems really important, right? If you are somebody who's being affected by a lot of the politicking that's going on, it feels really big and really overwhelming. But in order for us to be able to move and take intentional action, you have to be able to cut the noise, right? You can't necessarily control everything that's coming into your life, but if you don't control the things you consume, it can turn into a super quick dumpster fire of distraction, right? They steal your focus, steals your energy, and it really affects your ability to do something with your life. So let's talk about the art of saying no. Most things that we do or pay attention to really don't deserve our time. There's a difference between being busy and being productive. Some of y'all are just like running in circles. And I'm going to include myself in that. There are some days where I feel like I'm just running in circles. We're going to talk about setting boundaries like a boss, right? Social media detox, cutting toxic people out, and not apologizing for it. And then the biggest lie that we've all been fed, which is that multitasking makes you more efficient. It's a total lie. We can't do that. So buckle up, right? This is going to be a ride. Cold hard truth. Most things that you do don't deserve your time, but we keep saying yes to things like we have unlimited time and energy. Like, can you help me with this real quick? Want to come to this thing you don't care about? Do you mind listening to me rant about the same problem I refuse to fix? And what do we say? Sure, no problem. Meanwhile, our own priorities are sitting in the corner like, well, damn, I guess I'm just going to go die, right? Saying no, the art of saying no really is a skill. Your peace depends on that art. And so it's important to start to practice it. So here's how you master the art of saying no. First off, it's a gut check, right? If your gut does not say hell yes, it's a hard no. Simple, right? Your gut is going to tell you every time if the thing that you are saying yes or no to is in alignment with you, right? You don't need an excuse. I can't or no is a full sentence. And that's a really hard one. I know sometimes I feel like I have to tell somebody why I'm saying no or why I'm unable to do something. But you don't have to. It's not rude. Your time and your energy is your life. So you can just say, I can't. And for people who don't understand that, maybe they're just not the right people for you, right? If you start to feel guilty when you're saying no, ask yourself, would this person drop everything for me? Right? And if not, why are you bending over backwards for them? Right? There are certain relationships where, yeah, you're gonna go and you're gonna stand in front of a moving train. Your kids, your really close loved ones, right? But saying no to the rest of the people, that doesn't make you mean. It makes you efficient. It keeps you from wasting time on things that just don't align with your goals. And that takes practice. So starting to practice the art of saying no is important, right? Have you ever like talked to someone who's so busy all the time, but they don't really accomplish anything? Yeah, that's because they're just busy. They're not actually productive. And I don't know. I've definitely had days like that where I'm like, wow, I did so much, but what did I actually get done? Um, Busy people who aren't productive say yes to everything, right? Or at least more things than they need to. They have a to-do list that's longer than one of those, like, oh, we'll go with Costco again, Costco receipts, right? And they're also constantly feeling overwhelmed because they're never moving forward or checking anything off of the list. Now, productive people, on the other hand, they say yes, but strategically, right? They prioritize what matters, and those are the things that they say yes to. And they make progress on the right things, not all things, but on the things that really matter to them. So let me say it louder for the people in the back. You are not too busy. You're just spending time on the wrong stuff. Okay. If you have time to scroll on social media for an hour, you also have time to work on the things you actually want in your life. And I am talking to myself as well because I could scroll on social media and all of a sudden an hour has gone by like nobody's business. But if we have time to binge watch Netflix, we also have time to build something that matters, to write that book, to send the email to that customer, right? To call a loved one, right? It's not about having time. It's really about making time for the things that matter. Did that sting a little bit? Good. That means it's time to change. Let's talk about boundaries for a second. If you don't have them, other people and other things are going to run your life for you. Let's start with the biggest boundary breaker that we have, which is currently social media. Social media is literally designed to be addictive, right? It's a slot machine for our brain. If you're not careful, it will swallow up your time, your energy, and your self-worth, right? Like the more that you consume, the more you're rewarded for that consumption, the more things you're going to be fed, right? It's also, side note, why we're, in my belief, in the place where we're at right now, with there being such major uh distance between people and lack of connection. because we get fed the same things that they think we want to consume. And so if you go down one rabbit hole, there's your rabbit hole while this person over here is going down theirs. So here's what I suggest trying out if you dare. Here's my challenge. Delete the apps off your phone for the weekend, right? If it makes you panic, you probably need to do it, right? Two, unfollow people who drain your energy. If you like to go and look at that person's posts and it doesn't make you feel good afterwards, why are you still watching it? And I know, listen, you have that ex that you got to check on, right? Or that person from high school, or that person who's posting the political stuff that you know is going to make you mad, but you go back and look at it anyway, right? It's time to take a look at why you're doing that. Or if you can't delete the apps from your phone, if you're struggling to unfollow people, at the very least, turn off your notifications, right? Your phone is not the boss of you, it's the other way around, right? Stop letting your phone dictate your focus, right? And social media is a huge problem, but it's not the only problem, right? People can be distractions too, right? Do you ever have that one friend that only calls you when they want something or need something? Your coworker who's always dumping their problems on you, but never asks how you're doing. Or that family member who guilt trips you and is saying yes to things even when you don't want to do it. Yep, I have been there too. Those are called energy vampires. And the only way to stop them from draining you is to set boundaries. Okay, so for my people pleasers out there, here are some things you can try. One, try this. Hey, I can't talk right now, but I hope you figure it out. You could even be positive and say, I know you got this, right? You can say something like, hey, I don't have the bandwidth for that right now. Or you can literally just say, no, thanks. You don't need an explanation. I know, revolutionary, right? If they get mad, that's good. Your boundary is working, right? You're not responsible for somebody else's feelings about something. You're responsible for your own thoughts and feelings and actions. People who respect you will respect your boundaries. The ones who don't respect your boundaries, that really tells you everything you need to know about that person. All right, let's talk about something else. The myth of multitasking. It's a scam. Multitasking is not a thing. Everyone thinks they're so good at it because you can answer emails while you're watching TV, while you're cooking dinner, while you're texting. But guess what? You're not doing any of those things well, very clearly. All the research indicates that multitasking makes us less efficient. It increases mistakes and it fries your brain and leads to burnout. All three really good reasons why not to multitask. If your brain is like a web browser, for instance, right? Multitasking is like having too many tabs open. And I don't know if you've ever noticed this about your computer, but when you have too much stuff open, everything slows down, right? The working memory on the actual computer is taken up and everything slows down. So instead of this multitasking thing, you can try to focus on one thing at a time, give it your full attention, finish it, and move on. I know, game changing, right? It really is, though. It's simple, but it really is a game changer. Because when you stop half-assing everything, you start whole-assing what actually matters, right? So let's wrap up this section. We have talked about the power of saying no, the difference between being busy and being productive, setting boundaries like a boss, and why multitasking is a scam. So here's your big takeaway from this section. If your brain was a bank account, most of us are letting random people swipe our debit card, right? So it's really time to take our focus back. So the challenge for today is to say no to the things that don't serve you, set a boundary, and then work on not feeling bad about it for my beautiful people pleasers out there. And then turn off your notifications for 24 hours. See how you feel. When you cut out that noise, you create the space for what actually matters, right? You create space for creativity and freedom and alignment, right? So stop giving your time to things that you're not choosing. Next up, we're going to be talking about intentional relationships and why who you give your attention to will make or break your life. So I'll see you in a few. All right, my loves, welcome back to Notes from Your Coach with me, the Queen of the Pivot. This whole podcast is um, a gift taken from a book that I wrote called Notes from Your Coach. And the whole premise of it is that we're taking one of the 90 quotes in the book and talking about it every week. So this week we're talking about being intentional, what that sounds like, and who and what we give our attention to really does dictate and create our life. So in this third segment of the podcast today, we're going to talk about intentional relationships because let's be really honest, who you surround yourself with either fuels you or drains you like a bad battery, right? I always like to say this to my students, whether they're middle school or high school, I always talk about the fact that who you hang out with dictates how you're going to be perceived and who you're seen. Because the reality is, if you're standing on a chair and the person next to you is staying on the floor, is it easier to lift them up onto the chair with you, or is it easier to pull for them to pull you off? And the reality is it's much easier for them to pull you off the chair. So who you hang out with really can dictate your happiness, your energy, and your success, right? We're going to dive into the difference between energy givers and energy drainers, people who help you feel lit up versus people who leave you emotionally bankrupt. We're going to talk about the ROI of relationships, right? Because every interaction we have costs us something. Yes, it may give us something, but it also costs us something, whether it's time and energy or something else. Red flags versus green flags, how to know if your people are lifting you up or subtly dragging you down, and social detox, when to cut ties and how to do it without unnecessary drama. And let me say, if this conversation makes you feel a little bit uncomfortable, it's probably a sign that you need to hear it. All right. Have you ever hang out with someone and you leave feeling happier, lighter, inspired? That's an energy giver. Even better are those that help you feel at home when you're with them, right? But then there's the other kind, right? There's the person who suck the life out of the room like a human black hole, right? You spend an hour with them and suddenly you're questioning every choice you ever made. That's an energy drainer as opposed to an energy giver. So let's break it down. People who are energy givers make you laugh even on bad days, right? They genuinely celebrate your wins, no fake smiles, no backhanded compliments, right? They push you to be better. They respect your boundaries and your time. They leave you feeling energized and not exhausted. I really hope as I'm reading this list to you that you have someone in mind in your life that fits this category. And if you don't, ding, 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 it might be time to sort of change your people around a little bit. Okay. So here's what an energy drainer looks like. They're they're complaining constantly, but they never change anything. There's always some sort of drama, right? Because somehow life is always unfair to them. They're very victimy. They make everything about them. They subtly or not so subtly downplay your success so that they don't feel small. And they leave you feeling mentally and emotionally wiped out, right? If you got a picture in your head of somebody like that, then again, it might be time to think about who you're hanging out with. Which category do you think that most people in your life fall into, right? If you're constantly surrounded by energy drainers, it doesn't matter how motivated you are, you're going to feel stuck. And if you're just triggered, take a breath. This isn't about blame, it's about awareness, right? Realizing who you're spending your time with. And let me tell you how important this is. This is so important that the job that I just started, I took because the people that I'd be working with were energy givers. Meaning I knew that I was going to be able to walk into this team and help them as much as they were going to help me. And it was going to be a really good environment. Because to me, it's so important to surround yourself with good people. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about that, the ROI of relationships. And for those of you who don't speak that language, ROI just means return on investment, right? So every relationship in your life is an investment of sorts. Just like money, you want to make sure that you're making smart investments. So if you think about it, every text, call, or hangout that you have costs time and energy. Every deep conversation costs some sort of emotional bandwidth. Every toxic interaction costs you peace of mind. So you have to think about, what are you getting? What is your return on investment in a relationship, right? And I don't mean transactional relationships, like someone you're paying for something. I mean mutual ones, right? Like, are you pouring into people who also pour back into you? Are you making emotional charity donations to people who never reciprocate? Mm, Love, support, and energy should always be a two-way street, right? And listen, sometimes it's not 50-50. There's times when the people in our lives are going through things, and we do sit there as a support for them. But if you're constantly giving and not getting anything back, that's not a relationship, right? That's an unpaid internship. And you really deserve better than that. Let's talk now about red flags versus green flags. So, how do you know if this is somebody who it may be time to change your relationship or move on from, right? Red flags versus green flags. So, red flags also meaning that you need to run. One, they downplay your success. Like, oh, that must be nice that you have that, or that you did that. Or they constantly bring negativity, like, ugh, everything sucks all the time. They only show up when they need something. They don't respect your time or boundaries, right? They try to guilt you if you're busy or you have something else going on. Um, or here's a huge red flag. They make you feel guilty for growing, right? Think about you start to make healthier eating choices, right? These are a red flag would be when you go out with friends and they comment on the fact that you ordered you know, a healthier option for a meal, or let's say you put half of your food away as soon as it comes to carry out. And then they make you feel guilty for that, right? Those are some big red flags. But here's the flip side of that. What about those green flags, right? These are the ones you want to keep forever, people. So listen up. Green flags. People celebrate your wins louder than you do, right? Those are the green flag people. They tell you the truth even when it's hard. Man, let me tell you, I fell for my partner hard because she was truthful even when it was painful to hear. And I knew that that was a massive green flag in somebody. They respect your boundaries without making it weird, right? Like, oh, you got something going on? Yeah, sure, no problem. I hear you. Have fun with that, right? They genuinely want to see you win. These are the people that know that like success is not a pie where like if I have big success, you can't have as big success, right? Because that's not how success works. These are the people who know that celebrating you in the end celebrates them as well. Also, these people make you feel lighter. They make you feel happier, more you. I have this group of friends from college now, and so we've been friends 20 plus years at this point. And we try to get together once a year. And let me tell you, after spending, a couple of days, just a couple of days with these friends, like it's like going home in a way. I feel lighter, I feel happier, I feel more connected to myself again. Those are some major green flags. If you have those in your life, keep them, right? So I want you to think about, after I've described these, who are the red flagged people and who are the green flagged people, right? All right. One more thing to talk about in this segment: social detox. How do we cut ties without the drama? So once you realize that someone's an energy drainer, there's a lot of red flags, and maybe it's time for you to move on, right? How do we do that? All right, one, you got to start creating space. You don't have to announce anything, right? You don't have to be like, hey, we're no longer friends. You just get to start stepping back, creating a little bit of space, right? You don't necessarily have to initiate all the time. You don't have to over explain. Just pause, because their reaction is going to tell you everything you need to know about a situation. Okay, two, set clear boundaries. So once you have a boundary, if they cross the line, speak up. Like saying, hey, I really don't have space for this right now. And if they respect it, cool. If they get mad, well, that tells you something, right? After that, if it's necessary, then it might be time to have a conversation, right? times you have the talk if it's a close relationship. Like, I appreciate your time, but I feel like we're going in different directions and I need to prioritize my energy right now, right? The talk. Uh, and then four, don't feel guilty. You are looking at creating the life that you want here, right? If you wouldn't let someone borrow your car, why are you letting them crash your peace of mind, right? It might be time to let them grow. Let them go while you grow. So if they throw a fit, if they make you feel guilty, congratulations, you really just proved that you made the right decision. Um, so if if it's going on in your life that you have people who are energy drainers or more red flags than green, it might be time to start to create that space and those boundaries and really start to move in a different direction. Sometimes people surprise us and move with us. A lot of times they don't, and that's okay. We don't have to carry everyone through our life all the time. Your relationships shape your life, so it's really important to be intentional with them. Surround yourself with energy givers, invest in relationships that invest in you, pay attention to those red flags. Don't be afraid to detox your social circle. When we raise our standards, the more the wrong people will remove themselves, honestly, right? So, who lights you up? Who drains you? And what relationships need a boundary check? Take some time to audit your circle. When we get intentional about who has access to us, we unlock a whole new level of peace, right? We're more successful and we're happier. Next up, we're going to be talking about how to protect our attention because really our attention, again, is what creates our life inevitably. So we will be right back. All right, my loves, we made it to the final stretch, the last segment. However, I think this one actually might be the most important conversation of all of this, right? Energy is sacred, right? It's our life force. And yet, so many of us are just giving it out for free, right? So, how do you guard your energy? Knowing that our energy and where we focus, what we put things into, who we put our energy into is really what creates our life inevitably, then how do we guard it and how do we really become intentional about it? So, in this last segment, we're going to talk about morning, evening rituals. We're going to talk about the power of silence. We're going to talk about a hell yes versus a hell no and a self check, right? When's the last time you actually were at peace? And how do we get back there? Um, I really don't love how we have started to use burnout as a badge of honor, right? And so I really want to talk about in this section, we're not trying to work towards creating a life of burnout. I mean, I'm not. I've been there. I've been in real burnout, and it is not a fun place to be. I'm looking to find peace and to be intentional and to create the life I want here. So if you're into that, then let's get to it because you're my people. Most of us at times in my life, uh, I'm sure I'm not the only one, where waking up we just kind of automatically hand our energy over to chaos, right? Like wake up, go, 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 go. The first thing is checking the phone, right? We haven't even gone to the bathroom yet, and we're already looking at social media or news or emails. And right then our mood is set, right? And then we wonder why we feel so drained before noon. So what if we flip the script? And this is something that I'm a huge believer in. I think that morning rituals are so important because they can protect our energy, right? You get to dictate the energy for the day. What is it going to look like? So here are some thoughts on how to create a morning ritual. First off, get an alarm clock. Stop using your phone as the alarm because that way you don't have to look at your phone for the first 30 minutes that you're in, right? Give yourself 30 minutes where you're not looking at social media, text messages from people, emails, etc. Let your brain wake up a little bit before you start doom scrolling, right? Okay, so that's the first thing. Two, move your body, right? Whether you're going to work out at boot camp or you're going to go on a walk or you're simply just going to stretch and move your body or shake it out a little bit, that gets your energy flowing, right, within your body. And number three, set your intention. What energy do I want to bring into the day? What does that look like? Setting the tone is really important because if you don't set that tone, then the life's just going to set it for you. I will tell you that my favorite way of all the world to start my day is with gratitude because I'm a big believer that the energy of gratitude is one of the highest energies you can walk with, right? What am I grateful for today? And sometimes it can be difficult to come up with something if it's been a hard day. Sometimes it's really simple and sometimes it's really complex. It could be as simple as, I'm so grateful I'm waking up and breathing right now, right? Or it could be more complex and saying, like, I'm so grateful for this relationship with a specific person, right? When you wake up and set the tone for gratitude for the day, you're walking already thankful for what you're receiving, which is going to bring more things into your life that you're going to be grateful for. And it's a really beautiful exercise. Okay, so we talked about morning rituals. Another way to deal with this is to also have an evening ritual, right? So when you're being intentional about your morning, you can also be intentional about your evening. Brain dump before you go to bed, right? Get all of your thoughts out so they're not keeping you up at night. If you struggle to sleep, this is a great way to move it from your head onto a piece of paper. And the key here really is not judging yourself. You're just dumping all of the words that your brain is giving you onto a piece of paper so it's out of your head, right? Two, just the way you started your day without your phone, end your day without your phone. No screens for the last 30 minutes before we go to sleep, right? If you're falling asleep on TikTok, your brain is literally marinating in garbage, right? No offense. I love TikTok. So there's no judgment on my part. And sometimes I'm guilty of this, watching it until I fall asleep. But truly, really what we fall asleep with is what our brain is focusing on. So, thirdly, starting the day with gratitude, why not end it with gratitude, right? Do a gratitude check. What went well today, right? Even if it was a total dumpster fire, you got to be able to find something, right? Because gratitude really is energy protection. How did I show up today? What did today look like? What can I be thankful for today? So mornings and evenings are like the bookends to your life. So if you guard them with peace because your life depends on it, it's a great practice. All right, next, let's talk about the power of silence. No one teaches us this. But not every comment needs a clapback. Not every situation deserves an emotional investment. Not every text requires a response, right? I love the saying, not my circus, not my monkeys, right? Like we put so much into other people's lives, but what if we realized like it really had nothing to do with us and we didn't have to, right? I don't attend every argument I'm invited to, right? If someone wants to argue, but it's going to take your energy and it's not going to be helpful for you to be a part of it, you don't have to be a part of it. You get to make that choice. Silence is a great response to somebody because especially people want that back and forth and back and forth. And by staying silent, what you're really saying is, I'm not wasting my energy on it, right? Because a lot of people thrive by stealing energy. So they want to bait you into drama. When you react to them, they win, right? So just stick silent. And here's the other thing. People don't love silence. So, and they get really uncomfortable with it. And so if you can practice being really thoughtful in your responses by being silent sometimes, it's a great way for somebody to take that energy and like move on with it. When I was growing up, I had this soccer coach, and she was amazing. She was such an amazing mentor to me. And she was a social worker, and so she practiced how to listen. I mean, she was an amazing listener. And I used to be so intimidated by her silence. I would talk to her and I felt like she was looking deep in my soul, and she never responded right away. She was always really thoughtful about what she said. And that was so intimidating. There's not a lot of people who have practiced the art of silence a lot, minus, let's say, coaches or therapists or counselors who have been trained in that. But even in our training, that idea of practicing silence is a tool that we use, right, to allow people to be reflective. So the next time someone tries to drag you into some BS, you can ask yourself, like, is this really worth my peace? If the answer is no, just hit them with the ultimate power move, which is just whoop, being totally silent. And so I think when we're talking about um, how to handle guarding our energy, these are some really practical ways to go about it. Looking at a morning and evening ritual, learning to be silent, closing your day with intention, right? Coming up with some mantras that can help you when you need to get your silence back. Um, and I think guarding our energy is one of the most important things that we can do. As you move through understanding what it looks like to guard your energy, I also want you to think about the things that you want to be spending your energy on. What are the things that really light you up? What are the things that excite you? When you dream about your life, what does it look like? Right? Those are the things that we want to be expending our energy on. And that's one thing that I love about being a coach is sometimes people don't know what they really want or how they feel about something until they come into coaching and they're able to have somebody who's trained to listen reflect back to them the things they're saying. And it becomes this really beautiful practice of understanding yourself in a way that you wouldn't have gotten to. That's why I always like to say that coaching is like a mirror and a flashlight, right? Like we mirror back to people what they're saying, how they're feeling, and we also are shining a flashlight on the things that they maybe not, didn't know were there. Um, and so if you're interested in learning what it looks like to protect your energy, and then to dive deeper and understand, you know what, where do I want to put my energy? What do I want my life to look like? And how do I mindfully do that? Then it might be worth looking for a coach, finding somebody who can help you for this period of time, really dive into what you want your life to look like. Y'all, life is short. We don't have all the energy in the world. We really should be using it for how we want and what we want to be creating. So becoming intentional to focus our energy is super important. Don't let people or things or events steal it. And I know that can be really tough right now when there's a lot of things that can be causing worry. So I think one of the most important things that I'm doing is understanding where my heart is, the very specific and the things that I'm really passionate about, and that's what I'm focusing on because I don't have the energy to focus on everything. So I'm looking at the things that are really important to me, and that's what I'm focusing on. And for me, especially to be a political advocate, like I'm looking at the things that really speak to me. I can't touch all of it, but I can definitely put time and energy into the things that are important to me. So I just want to say to y'all, I love you so much. And as you step back into your human journey, really remember this week's unfiltered motivation. Um, be intentional about your time and who you give it to. You've got this. In case you need the reminder, although I don't think you do, you are a badass. Keep rocking it. Until next time, stay true, stay empowered, stay resilient, and remember the power of the pivot. If you'd like to contact me, you can go to my website on Notes from Your Coach. All my info is there. Feel free to shoot me an email, reach out. I have space for a couple coaching clients. So I'd love to get you started. And if you're interested, yeah, just hit me up. See you next time.
Always remember that you are your greatest asset. For more Notes from Your Coach with me, Queen of the Pivot, tune in every first and third Monday at 12 p.m. Pacific on Transformation Talk Radio. Each episode is chock full of unfiltered motivation to ignite your life and focuses on the tiny nugget of potent truth to empower you to take action and understand the power of the pivot. Share this show and share your journey using hashtag Notes from Your Coach. Subscribe and leave a review by visiting notesfromyourcoach.com.